The miscalculation. Supreme Overlord Kale stood motionless on the command deck of the Eternal Subjugator, his 7-foot frame casting a long shadow across the polished obsidian floor. The massive view screen before him displayed a blue-green planet growing steadily larger, Earth, the next conquest in the Zathrian Empire's 5,000-year expansion. Primitive, he muttered, his reptilian eyes narrowing as he studied the holographic display of Earth's defenses or lack thereof. A handful of satellites, a few rudimentary space stations, and weaponry that barely qualified as more than fireworks compared to Zathrian technology. Another world that will kneel before our might. First Sentinel Morkith approached, her scaled head bowing slightly in deference. The invasion fleet awaits your command, Supreme Overlord. Standard protocol? Kale's lipless mouth curved into what passed for a smile among the Zathrians. Indeed. Send the Vanguard cruisers to their largest cities. Target their military installations and governmental centers. The usual demonstration of force. As you command. Morkith turned, her ceremonial armor glinting under the ship's cold lights. The Empire endures through conquest. The Empire endures through conquest. Kale repeated the ancient mantra absently, already drafting in his mind the victory report he would send to the Imperial Council. Earth would be but a footnote in the endless Zathrian chronicles of domination. 300 meters beneath the Rocky Mountains, Captain Alara Voss watched the approaching Zathrian vessels on the Global Defense Network's main display. Around her, the command center of Project Sentinel hummed with controlled urgency as military personnel from 23 nations coordinated Earth's response. They're deploying exactly as predicted, Alara observed, her calm voice belying the gravity of the moment. Humanity's first contact with alien life had come not with peaceful overtures, but with the approach of warships whose designs matched perfectly the intelligence gathered from the deep space probes. Dr. Hiram Jackson, the lead scientist behind Earth's defensive innovations, nodded as he adjusted his neural interface. 17 years of preparation comes down to this moment. The Zathrians haven't changed their invasion strategy in millennia. Fortunately for us, Alara replied, straightening her midnight blue uniform. At 42, she carried herself with the measured poise of someone who had trained her entire adult life for this single day. Status of the Aegis network? Lieutenant Colonel Wei pushed forward a holographic report. All systems green, Captain. Phase shift disruptors are powered and awaiting activation. Quantum reflection fields are synchronized across all orbital platforms. Alara placed her palm on the command console's biometric scanner. Initiate Operation Prometheus. All stations prepare for first contact protocol. Throughout Earth's atmosphere and across its surface, seemingly ordinary satellites, weather stations, and even commercial telecommunications arrays silently reconfigured, revealing their true purpose. 2 decades of unified global preparation were about to be tested against an enemy that had never known defeat. The Zathrian cruiser Swift Conquest entered Earth's upper atmosphere, its shields easily dispersing the friction heat. Commander Tevik was already composing his personal glory manuscript in his mind, another effortless victory to add to his illustrious record. Weapons locked on primary target, reported his gunnery officer. The primitive human defense systems aren't even attempting to track us. Begin the demonstration, Tevik ordered. Target their military headquarters in the region designated Pentagon. The cruiser's main particle cannon charged, gathering energy for a blast that would vaporize the target and everything within a 3-kilometer radius. The weapon reached full power and discharged. Nothing happened. Weapon malfunction? Tevik demanded, rising from his command throne. Before the gunnery officer could respond, the ship shuddered violently. Warning alarms blared across the command deck. Unknown energy field surrounding the vessel, the sensor officer reported, panic evident in her voice. It's draining our shields and weapon systems. Across Earth's atmosphere, similar scenes played out as the invasion force encountered the planet's first line of defense, the quantum absorption network. Thousands of satellites and high-altitude drones created an invisible web that captured and redirected energy weapons, rendering them harmless or, in some cases, reflecting them back at their source. In the Sentinel Command Center, Alara watched as the first wave of Zathrian cruisers reported system failures. Phase 1 successful, she announced. They deployed exactly as the Centauri intercepts indicated. Predictable. Their arrogance is our advantage, Dr. Jackson said, monitoring the energy absorption readings. The network is performing beyond expectations. We're not just neutralizing their weapons, we're harvesting their energy. On the tactical display, red icons representing Zathrian vessels were rapidly changing to yellow, indicating compromised systems. But Alara knew this was just the beginning. They'll adapt, she warned. Deploy Phase 2 defenses. All aerospace units cleared for engagement. Supreme Overlord Kale watched in disbelief as the first wave of cruisers reported system failures. This was unprecedented. No species at Earth's development stage should possess such technology. Deploy the main fleet, he ordered, his voice hardening. Full assault protocol. Whatever tricks these humans have, they cannot stand against our numbers. The Zathrian fleet descended, thousands of fighter craft swarming toward Earth's surface. As they penetrated deeper into the atmosphere, they encountered the next layer of Earth's defenses. Squadrons of advanced aircraft rose to meet them. Human fighters that moved with impossible agility, equipped with weapons that shouldn't exist in such a primitive civilization. Quantum-locked projectiles bypassed Zathrian shields entirely. Targeted EMP bursts disabled fighter systems without damaging the craft themselves. From hidden bases across the globe, Earth's unified defense forces engaged the invaders. What the humans lacked in numbers, they made up for with tactical brilliance and home field advantage. Colonel Javier Mendoza directed the air defense from his mobile command post in what had once been a Brazilian soccer stadium. They fight like they've never faced real opposition, he observed, watching the tactical display as human squadrons systematically dismantled the alien formations. Arrogance is their weakness, Alara's voice replied through the secure channel. And preparation is our strength. The battle in the skies was merely the beginning. When Zathrian ground forces deployed, hulking alien warriors in powered armor carrying disintegration rifles, they found themselves facing an enemy that had prepared for their exact tactics and technology. Human soldiers wearing specialized combat suits engaged the invaders with weapons designed to exploit the weaknesses of Zathrian armor. Urban warfare specialists lured alien squads into prepared ambush zones. Most surprisingly to the invaders, civilian populations didn't panic. They enacted well-rehearsed evacuation and resistance protocols. First Sentinel Morkith reported the mounting losses to Supreme Overlord Kale, her usual stoic demeanor cracking. Supreme 1, we've lost 40% of our ground forces and nearly 60% of our atmospheric fighters. The humans, they were waiting for us. They know our tactics. Kale's facial scales had darkened to a deep crimson, a sign of rage among his species. Impossible. They are barely into their space age. How could they possibly? Supreme 1, interrupted the communications officer, we're detecting massive energy buildups at Earth's poles. On the view screen, the ice caps of Earth seemed to shimmer as hidden installations revealed themselves. Enormous energy collectors unfolded, drawing power from the planet's magnetic field and the absorbed energy of the Zathrians' own weapons. In the Sentinel Command Center, Dr. Jackson stood beside Captain Voss as they initiated Earth's most powerful defense system. Polar array at 95% capacity, he reported. Targeting solutions locked on their capital ships. They had their chance to leave, Alara said grimly. Execute Operation Aurora. Twin beams of concentrated energy, the combined output of a dozen fusion reactors augmented by the Zathrians' own redirected weapon energy, lanced from Earth's poles toward the alien fleet. The targeted vessels' shields flared briefly before collapsing, their hulls rupturing under the unprecedented energy assault. Supreme Overlord Kale stared in shock as a third of his remaining fleet was disabled in a single strike. Full retreat, he ordered. All vessels, emergency withdrawal. But Earth wasn't finished. As the Zathrian fleet attempted to disengage, they discovered their faster-than-light drives wouldn't activate. Earth had deployed a localized space-time distortion field, technology the Zathrians had believed was centuries beyond human capability. How is this possible? Kale demanded, slamming his fist on the command console. They've trapped us. Supreme 1, Morkith said quietly, we're receiving a transmission from Earth. The view screen flickered, showing a human woman in a military uniform, Captain Alara Voss. Attention Zathrian invasion force. Your unprovoked attack on our world has failed. Your technological advantages have been neutralized. Your tactical playbook has been studied and countered. You have 1 hour to surrender your vessels and withdraw your forces, or we will continue dismantling your fleet piece by piece. She leaned forward slightly. And understand this, we could have destroyed you entirely. Remember that when you report back to your empire. The transmission ended, leaving the command deck in stunned silence. They knew we were coming, Kale whispered. Not just new, they prepared specifically for us. For the first time in his military career, Supreme Overlord Kale faced not just defeat, but humiliation. The Zathrian Empire had never retreated, never surrendered. Yet here they were, outmaneuvered by a species that by all rights should have been easy prey. As the reality of defeat settled over him, Kale made a decision that would forever change the course of galactic history. Prepare contingency protocols, he ordered. We retreat. For now. The first battle was over. Earth had won. But the war had just begun. The reckoning. The shattered remnants of the once mighty Zathrian fleet huddled in the shadow of Europa, Jupiter's ice-covered moon. Emergency repair drones swarmed around damaged vessels like insects tending to wounded beasts. Inside the eternal subjugator, Supreme Overlord Kale gazed at the holographic projection of his remaining officers, his pride wounded more deeply than any of his ships. Status report, he demanded, his voice hollow with the unfamiliar taste of defeat. 42 vessels destroyed, 78 severely damaged, First Sentinel Morkith replied, her scales dull with exhaustion. We've lost over 30,000 ground troops. Our long-range communications array was specifically targeted. We cannot contact the Imperial Council. An uncomfortable silence fell over the command deck. In 5 millennia of expansion, no Zathrian fleet had ever suffered such losses, let alone at the hands of a species that should have been defenseless. The humans knew precisely where to strike, observed fleet tactician Zurith, his ancient features tight with frustration. They didn't just get lucky. They knew our shield frequencies, our formation weaknesses, even the refresh rate of our targeting systems. Impossible, growled Kale. They've barely achieved rudimentary space flight. How could they possibly? Supreme One, interrupted the sensor officer, we're detecting approaching vessels. Human signatures. The view screen shifted to show a formation of sleek spacecraft accelerating toward their position. Unlike the primitive shuttles and rockets their intelligence reports had described, these vessels moved with the precision of advanced warships. They're pursuing us, Morkith whispered. Beyond their own world. Kale's facial scales darkened with rage and disbelief. This wasn't just defense. The humans were hunting them. Battle formations, he ordered. All functional ships prepare to engage. General Darius Pierce stood on the bridge of the UES Nemesis, the flagship of humanity's first interstellar strike force. At 56, the veteran of 3 Earth wars carried the weathered look of someone who had seen too much combat. Yet his eyes burned with purpose as he studied the tactical display showing the cornered Zathrian fleet. They're forming a defensive perimeter, reported Commander Nikolai Volkov, Tactical Operations Officer. Their weapons are charging. Pierce nodded, his silver-streaked beard catching the blue light of the displays. They still think they have the advantage in open space, away from Earth's defense network. A thin smile crossed his face. Let them believe that a little longer. The Zathrian warships fired the first volley, energy weapons lancing toward the human fleet. To their shock, the human vessels didn't attempt to evade. Instead, their hulls absorbed the attacks, glowing briefly before returning to normal. No effect on our adaptive shielding, Volkov confirmed. Their weapons are operating at the exact frequencies we predicted. Of course they are, Pierce replied. They haven't needed to innovate in thousands of years. Deploy Phase 1 countermeasures. From the human vessels launched thousands of small drone-like projectiles that swarmed toward the alien ships. These microdrones attached themselves to the Zathrian hulls and began drilling, bypassing shields designed to deflect energy attacks. Lieutenant Indira Patel, Weapons Systems Coordinator, monitored the operation with calculated precision. Breach drones performing as expected, General. Minimal resistance from their point defense systems. They're still thinking conventionally, Pierce observed. They expect us to fight the way they do. The Zathrians had dominated their corner of the galaxy for millennia because their technological advantage had always been overwhelming. They had never needed to innovate or adapt. This had become their critical weakness. Humanity, by contrast, had prepared for this conflict knowing they would face a technologically superior enemy. They had developed unconventional weapons and tactics specifically designed to counter Zathrian advantages. The breach drones have compromised their propulsion and weapon systems on 30% of their vessels, Patel reported. Ready for Phase 2. Pierce nodded. Deploy boarding teams. Aboard the crippled Zathrian cruiser Inevitable Victory, Commander Toxer and his warriors braced for combat as alarms signaled hull breaches in multiple sections. The boarding craft had latched onto their ship like parasites, burning through the outer defenses with alarming speed. Defensive positions, Toxer ordered, raising his disintegration rifle. Show these primitives the might of Zathrian combat training. The airlock doors melted inward in a shower of sparks. Toxer expected to see human soldiers charging through, a fatal mistake made by countless species before them. Instead, something small rolled into the corridor, a spherical device that emitted a high-pitched whine. "Weapons ready," Toxer shouted, but the words had barely left his mouth when the device pulsed. Every Zathrian in the corridor suddenly found their neural systems overloaded with contradictory signals. Toxer collapsed, his limbs twitching uncontrollably as the frequency targeted the specific neural patterns of Zathrian physiology. Through blurred vision, he saw the humans enter, not charging recklessly, but moving with disciplined precision in advanced combat suits. They weren't even firing their weapons. They didn't need to. The Zathrians were incapacitated but conscious, precisely the human's intention. The lead human removed her helmet, revealing the stern face of Commander Francesca Rivera. She knelt beside the paralyzed Toxer. "Your ship is now under Earth control," she said calmly. "Your crew will be treated humanely. We're not here to slaughter. We're here to secure your technology and ensure you never threaten our world again." As human specialists moved through the ship, disabling systems and securing Zathrian crew members, Toxer realized with growing horror that this wasn't a lucky victory by a primitive species. This was a meticulously planned operation by a foe who had studied them for years. Supreme Overlord Kale watched in mounting despair as ship after ship fell silent. The humans weren't destroying his fleet, they were capturing it intact, a humiliation beyond comprehension. "They're boarding the command vessels first," Morkith reported, her voice trembling. "Taking our officers and database cores. This is methodical." A proximity alarm blared as boarding craft attached to the Eternal Subjugator itself. The breach alarm screamed throughout the massive vessel. How? Kale demanded of no one in particular. How could they be so prepared? On the main view screen, a communication request flashed. With trembling claws, Kale accepted it. The screen revealed a human male with silver-streaked hair and the bearing of a seasoned warrior. "Supreme Overlord Kale," the human said. "I am General Darius Pierce of the United Earth Defense Force. Your invasion has failed, and your retreat has been intercepted. We are taking possession of your vessels and technology as compensation for your unprovoked attack on our world." Kale's proud posture finally crumbled. "Who are you people? How did you know we were coming? How did you prepare so perfectly for our specific tactics?" Pierce's expression remained impassive. 23 years ago, one of your scout ships entered our solar system. You believed your stealth technology made it invisible to our primitive sensors. It did not. We captured that ship intact, with its crew and database. The revelation hit Kale like a physical blow. A scout ship, lost and presumed destroyed in an asteroid collision. The Empire had never considered that a pre-spacefaring civilization could have captured it. "For 2 decades, Pierce continued, we studied your technology, your tactics, your biology, and your history. We learned that the Zathrian Empire had conquered thousands of worlds using the same approach every time. We built our entire defense strategy around defeating specifically you." Kale understood now the magnitude of the Zathrian failure. Their greatest strength, their overwhelming technological superiority, had bred complacency. They had never needed to adapt, to innovate, to question their own methods. Meanwhile, humanity had united with singular purpose, preparing not for a general alien threat, but for the Zathrians specifically. "What happens now?" Kale asked, his voice barely audible. "Now you deliver a message to your empire," Pierce replied. "Earth is not a world to be conquered. We will reverse engineer your technology. We will build our own fleet. And should the Zathrian Empire ever threaten us again, we will not be as merciful." The transmission ended, leaving Kale to contemplate the end of 5 millennia of unchallenged Zathrian dominance. 3 months later, in the newly established Interstellar Defense Headquarters beneath the Himalayas, Captain Alara Voss and General Darius Pierce stood before the assembled leaders of Earth's unified government. "The Zathrian threat has been neutralized," Pierce reported. "Their surviving vessels departed our solar system 2 weeks ago, carrying our message to their Imperial Council." President Okafor of the United Earth Council nodded gravely. "And what of the captured technology?" Dr. Hiram Jackson stepped forward, his eyes bright with excitement. We've already integrated their faster-than-light drive systems into our prototype vessels. Their weapons technology is being adapted for our defense platforms. But most valuable of all is their star charts and records of other civilizations. He projected a holographic map of the galaxy, highlighting thousands of worlds. The Zathrians weren't the only empire out there. There are dozens of space-faring civilizations, some friendly, some hostile, many oppressed by powers like the Zathrians. We're not alone, Alaris said, studying the map with wonder and apprehension. And now we have the means to reach these other worlds. President Okafor surveyed the room. The question before us now is, what kind of interstellar civilization will Earth become? Will we use this technology to build our own empire? Or will we forge a different path? Pierce's weathered face remained solemn. The Zathrians conquered because they could, because no one could stop them. We've proven that even the most advanced empire can be defeated with sufficient preparation and innovation. Perhaps, Alaris suggested, our role is not to conquer but to liberate. The Zathrians ruled through fear and technological superiority. We could offer something different to the galaxy, an alliance of free worlds. The chamber fell silent as Earth's leaders contemplated the crossroads before them. Humanity had united to face extinction and had instead found itself suddenly thrust onto the galactic stage, armed with technology centuries beyond what they would have developed on their own. In the observation gallery above the chamber, Commander Francesca Rivera stood beside Lieutenant Indira Patel, watching the deliberations. Do you think the Zathrians will return? Patel asked quietly. Eventually, Rivera replied. Empires don't surrender power easily, but they'll come with fear in their hearts. She gazed at the holographic map of the galaxy, at all the worlds that had never known an alternative to conquest and subjugation. And when they do, they'll find we've made friends. Beyond the room, beyond Earth's atmosphere, the first human interstellar vessels were already under construction, incorporating Zathrian technology with human innovation. The UES Prometheus would soon make its maiden voyage, not as a weapon of war, but as an emissary to worlds that had only known conquerors. Supreme Overlord Kale's defeat had ended one empire's era of unchallenged dominance. But for humanity, the journey had just begun. The stars, once impossibly distant, now beckoned with both promise and peril. And Earth, once isolated and vulnerable, would meet both with open eyes and ready hands. The last dominion had fallen. A new age was dawning.